Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters in Christ, today I want to talk about a truth so powerful. It can shift your entire relationship with money. You will spend money like water. Now, don't misunderstand. This is not about reckless spending or wastefulness. This is about living in the divine flow, where money is not a source of fear or lack, but an instrument of faith and abundance. Florence Scovel Shinn taught us that life responds to our inner picture. If you see yourself as broke, life will confirm it. But if you see yourself as a channel for God's unlimited supply, you will never run dry. When water flows, it refreshes, it nourishes, it keeps moving. And money, my friends, works the same way when you trust the source. Fear dams the river, faith lets it rush freely. Money flows where faith removes fear, and this principle is as true in the spiritual realm as it is in the physical. When we allow fear to take root in our minds, it constricts the flow of prosperity, much like a blockage in a river stops the water from moving freely. Fear is a subtle thief. It whispers doubts into your heart, making you second-guess every opportunity, every blessing, and every open door God has set before you. Florence Scovel Shinn often spoke about the power of faith to dissolve obstacles, to melt away the invisible walls that stand between you and your supply. Faith is not just believing in something unseen. It is knowing with absolute certainty that God's abundance is already prepared for you, waiting for you to step into it. When you stand in faith, you send a clear message to the universe: I am ready to receive without resistance. Think of a gardener planting seeds. If the gardener is fearful, they may plant too few seeds, worried that there won't be enough water or sunlight for them to grow. But a gardener who trusts the process plants generously, knowing that the earth and the elements will respond. Your financial life works the same way. Fear causes you to hold back, to hesitate, to cling tightly to what you have. Faith empowers you to act boldly, to make investments, to give, to take steps that invite growth. The truth is, money does not respond to anxiety, it responds to confidence. People are drawn to those who operate with certainty, just as opportunities are drawn to a spirit that expects increase. Many people pray for more money, but their hearts are still full of fear that it will not come, or worse, that if it does come, it will be taken away. This kind of double-mindedness blocks the very blessing they're asking for. Faith, on the other hand, aligns your thoughts, your words, and your actions with the reality you desire. It allows you to release your grip on scarcity thinking and open your hands to receive. Fear says, what if I lose it? Faith says, what if I gain even more? Fear imagines worst-case scenarios, faith envisions best-case outcomes. When you start imagining abundance as your natural state, your behavior shifts. You spend without guilt, invest without panic, and give without expecting loss. We often underestimate the spiritual weight of our emotions when it comes to money. Every fearful thought sends a vibration of lack, and the law of attraction responds to that lack. Every faithful thought sends a vibration of trust, and the same law responds with provision. If you want your finances to change, you must first change the atmosphere of your inner world. Fear is like a cloud that hides the sun. It doesn't remove the light, but it blocks it from reaching you. Faith is the wind that moves the clouds, allowing the light to shine again. This is why people who seem less qualified on paper often succeed beyond expectation. They simply refuse to let fear set the boundaries of their potential. It is also important to understand that fear often disguises itself as practicality. Someone might say they are just being realistic, when in truth, they are operating from a fear of disappointment or failure. Faith does not ignore reality. It transforms it. Faith says, yes, I see the numbers, but I also see the unlimited source behind them. This is why Scripture tells us to walk by faith and not by sight. Sight can deceive you into thinking that what you have now is all there will ever be. Faith reminds you that what you see is temporary, and the unseen supply of God is eternal. When you truly believe this, you begin to act in ways that keep money in motion, and like water in a healthy stream, it refreshes everything it touches. The truth is, Fear will never completely disappear on its own. It has to be replaced. And the only thing strong enough to replace fear is faith. Faith in God's provision, in your own worthiness to receive, and in the divine law that says giving and receiving are two sides of the same coin. The moment you choose faith over fear, you change your financial destiny. You stop chasing money and start attracting it. You stop worrying about where it will come from and start focusing on what you will do with it when it arrives. You become a magnet for provision because you are no longer vibrating lack, you are radiating confidence, gratitude, and expectation. When you remove fear, you also remove the emotional barriers that keep you from taking inspired action. You begin to follow intuitive nudges, to step into opportunities that once felt too risky, to have conversations you might have avoided before. You understand that money is simply energy, and energy responds to the vibration you hold. If you send out fear, you get back scarcity. If you send out faith, you get back abundance. This is why removing fear is not just a mindset shift. It is a spiritual act. It declares to God and the universe that you are ready for the next level, that you trust the process, that you will no longer sabotage your blessings with doubt. By living this way, you enter the flow where money moves in and out of your life freely and consistently. You are no longer chasing every coin, no longer worrying about every bill, no longer shrinking your dreams to match your current resources. Instead, you expand your vision and let your resources rise to meet it. This is the secret of those who live in constant increase. They are not fearless by nature, but they have trained themselves to put faith in the driver's seat and relegate fear to the background, where it can no longer dictate their choices. Giving freely opens the door to receiving abundantly because generosity is one of the most powerful spiritual magnets for prosperity. When you give without fear, without calculation, and without the expectation of immediate return, you align yourself with the divine law of circulation. Florence Scovel Shinn often taught that whatever you send out, whether it is money, love, or kindness, will return to you multiplied. Giving is not about losing something. It is about planting seeds into the soil of the universe, knowing that the harvest will come in due time. A farmer does not cling to his seeds out of fear, there will not be enough to plant again. He releases them into the earth with trust that more will grow. The same principle applies to money and resources in your life. When you release them with joy, you create space for more to flow in. Many people live with a clenched fist, holding on tightly to what they have, thinking this will make them secure. But a closed fist cannot receive anything new. The act of giving opens your hand, both physically and spiritually, allowing blessings to enter. This is why people who give regularly, even when they don't seem to have much, often experience a surprising flow of provision. They are not operating from scarcity, they are operating from abundance in their hearts, and the outer world mirrors that abundance back to them. Generosity is a statement of faith that says, I trust there is more where this came from. That trust invites God's supply to move in ways you could never orchestrate on your own. It is important to note that the spirit in which you give matters just as much as the act itself. Giving out of guilt, obligation, or fear of loss will not produce the same energy as giving from a place of joy and love. The Bible tells us that God loves a cheerful giver because cheerful giving reflects a heart that knows its source. When you give with resentment, you plant seeds of bitterness. When you give with joy, you plant seeds of increase. This is why some people can give large amounts but never seem to prosper. They are giving in the wrong spirit. True abundance comes when your giving is an overflow of your gratitude and faith, not an attempt to buy favor or manipulate outcomes. Generosity also has a way of dissolving selfishness and fear, two of the biggest blockages to abundance. Fear says, if I give this away, I might not have enough later. Faith says, if I give this away, I trust that more will come back to me. Selfishness says, I must keep it all for myself to be secure. Faith says, I am secure because I am connected to the source of all supply. The moment you let go of something with a pure heart, you activate the law of return. It might not always come back in the same form. It could be a financial blessing, an unexpected opportunity, a relationship connection, or a new idea that generates wealth. But it will always come back in a form that serves your highest good. Giving freely is also a way of declaring your independence from fear-based thinking. When you give, you tell your subconscious mind that you already have more than enough. This creates a powerful psychological shift that affects how you approach life. Instead of shrinking your dreams to fit your current resources, you start expanding your belief in what is possible. People who give freely tend to see more possibilities, take more inspired action, and walk into doors that others don't even notice. That openness creates a fertile ground for abundance to grow. One of the most remarkable aspects of giving is that it not only blesses the receiver, but also transforms the giver. When you give, you feel a sense of fulfillment and joy that no amount of hoarding can match. You tap into the deep satisfaction of knowing you have been a channel for good. This state of being actually makes you more receptive to new blessings. The more you give, the more you become a conduit for the flow of divine supply, and the more that flow strengthens in your life. Like a river that keeps moving, it grows wider and deeper the more it flows. Stagnation happens when you try to keep everything for yourself, but circulation creates vitality and expansion. There is also a profound spiritual truth in the fact that giving shifts your focus from self-preservation to contribution. When you focus on helping others, you automatically expand your energy. You move from a mindset of, "I don't have enough," to, "I have something to share." That shift in perspective is magnetic to abundance. The universe responds to that expanded energy by matching it with increased opportunities, resources, and blessings. You begin to attract people who want to work with you, support you, and invest in you because your energy communicates trust and openness. Even small acts of giving can carry immense spiritual weight. You don't have to wait until you have a large surplus to start giving. The widow's mite in Scripture was worth more than all the riches of the wealthy, because it was given from a pure heart and deep faith. Likewise, your giving, whether it's time, encouragement, skills, or money, creates ripples in the spiritual realm that come back to you in ways you might never predict. The amount matters less than the intention, and the intention should always be rooted in trust and joy. The truth is, giving is not a one-way street, it is a cycle. Every gift you release sets something in motion, and the cycle is incomplete until something comes back to you. When you block that cycle by refusing to give, you also block the return. But when you participate in the divine exchange of giving and receiving, you become part of a living flow that grows stronger the more you engage with it. Every time you give freely, you are telling the universe, "I am ready for more," and the universe always responds. Hoarding stops the divine circulation of supply, because it interrupts the natural flow of giving and receiving that keeps abundance alive. Imagine a stream of water flowing freely through a valley. As long as the water moves, it stays fresh, nourishes the land, and supports life. But if you block the stream, the water becomes stagnant, loses its vitality, and eventually dries up. Money works the same way. It is energy, and energy is meant to move. When you hoard money out of fear, you create stagnation in your financial life. Instead of acting as a channel for God's abundance, you become a dam that blocks the flow. The spiritual law of circulation teaches that what you send out will return to you, often multiplied. But if you refuse to let anything go, you also refuse the opportunity for more to come in. Many people justify hoarding by calling it saving. But there is a significant difference between wise stewardship and fearful withholding. Saving with wisdom is done in faith, with the understanding that resources are being set aside for a purpose, and that more will continue to flow. Hoarding, on the other hand, comes from a mindset of lack and a fear that what you have now is all you will ever get. This fear creates a vibration of scarcity, and that vibration attracts more scarcity. You might think that holding tightly to your money makes you secure, but in reality, it cuts you off from the very source of your security. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that the universe cannot fill a cup that is already full and tightly covered. In order to receive fresh supply, you have to be willing to pour out what you already have. Hoarding also limits your vision. When you are focused on preserving what little you have, you stop seeing possibilities for increase. Your mind becomes preoccupied with keeping things the same instead of expanding into more. This is why people who hoard often find that their finances shrink over time. There is no fresh inflow to replace what is used, and no faith to create new opportunities. In contrast, those who keep money moving, whether through investment, generosity, or purposeful spending, often see their resources grow. They understand that circulation is a sign of life, and stagnation is a sign of fear. The fear that fuels hoarding often comes from past experiences of lack or loss. Perhaps someone grew up in a home where there was never enough, or they went through a season where every dollar mattered for survival. While those experiences are real and often painful, allowing them to dictate your present behavior keeps you trapped in the same pattern. Hoarding might feel like a way to protect yourself, but it actually reinforces the belief that resources are limited. Faith, on the other hand, acknowledges the past but chooses to believe that God's supply is endless and available now. Choosing to trust in that supply breaks the emotional and spiritual chains that hoarding creates. Hoarding also affects relationships. When you withhold resources, whether money, time, or help, you create distance between yourself and others. People can feel the energy of scarcity, and it often leads to mistrust or tension. Conversely, those who live with an open-handed attitude tend to attract people and opportunities that support their growth. Abundance is relational as much as it is financial. When you hoard, you are essentially saying to the world, "I am on my own, and I cannot trust that more will come." This attitude not only blocks financial blessings, but can also close the door to valuable partnerships and collaborations. It is also important to understand that hoarding is not always about large amounts of money. A person can have very little and still hoard, just as someone with great wealth can live in fear of losing it. Hoarding is more about mindset than numbers. It is rooted in the belief that there is not enough to go around, so you must keep as much as you can for yourself. This belief is contrary to divine law, which operates on the truth that there is more than enough for everyone. When you trust in that truth, you begin to release your grip, allowing money and resources to flow freely through your life. Breaking the habit of hoarding requires both inner and outer work. Internally, you must challenge the beliefs that keep you stuck in fear. This means replacing thoughts of lack with affirmations of abundance, focusing on gratitude for what you already have, and visualizing the flow of resources into and out of your life. Externally, it means taking deliberate actions to keep money in motion, spending on things that align with your values, giving to causes that matter to you, and investing in opportunities that promote growth. Each time you take a step of faith in this way, you weaken the hold that hoarding has on you. When you participate in the divine circulation of supply, you step into a rhythm that is bigger than yourself. You realize that you are not the sole source of your provision, you are a steward of what flows through you. In this role, your job is not to cling to resources out of fear, but to direct them wisely, so they can continue moving and multiplying. Just as a tree takes in water and sunlight to produce fruit, you receive resources so they can be used, shared, and invested back into the world. Hoarding stops this process, cutting off both the fruit and the blessing that comes from sharing it. Ultimately, the cure for hoarding is trust. Trust that there is more where that came from, trust that your needs will be met, and trust that letting go will not leave you empty. The moment you stop clinging to every dollar and start allowing your resources to circulate, you align yourself with the spiritual laws that govern abundance. That alignment transforms not just your finances, but your entire outlook on life, replacing fear with confidence and stagnation with growth. Your words create the financial reality you live in, because every statement you make about money carries power to shape your experience. Florence Scovel Shinn often taught that words are a form of command to the subconscious mind and to the spiritual laws that govern our lives. When you speak lack, you give life to lack. When you speak abundance, you invite abundance into your reality. Words are not empty sounds, they are creative forces. Scripture reminds us that death and life are in the power of the tongue. And this applies directly to your finances. If you constantly say things like, "I can't afford that," "Money never stays with me," or "I'm always broke," you are programming your mind and environment to make those statements true. Every time you speak, you are planting seeds, and those seeds grow into the circumstances of your life. The words you choose become the blueprint for your financial world. Your subconscious mind does not argue with you. It accepts whatever you repeatedly tell it, and then works to make that your reality. This is why two people can face similar challenges yet produce entirely different results. One speaks words of faith and expectancy, and the other speaks words of defeat and limitation. Over time, those repeated words build patterns of thought, and those patterns influence the actions you take, the risks you're willing to embrace, and the opportunities you even notice. Your outer life begins to reflect your inner conversation. It's easy to dismiss this as just positive thinking, but it is far deeper than that. Words carry vibration, and vibration attracts matching experiences. When you speak words of abundance with conviction, you align your energy with the flow of supply. You are essentially placing an order with the universe, stating clearly what you expect. The more consistent you are in this, the stronger the alignment becomes. On the other hand, if your speech is filled with worry, complaint, and negativity about money, you keep yourself in a state of energetic resistance. Even if an opportunity comes your way, your words and mindset may cause you to overlook it or sabotage it. Many people don't realize how often they speak against their own prosperity. Simple, casual phrases like, "That's too expensive," or "I'll never be rich," might feel harmless, but they carry a powerful message to your mind and spirit. They create a ceiling in your thinking, a boundary you cannot rise above until you change your language. Florence Scovel Shinn advised replacing negative financial statements with affirmations of faith, such as, "I am a channel for God's unlimited supply," or "Money comes to me in expected and unexpected ways." These statements might feel unnatural at first, but with repetition, they begin to rewire your thoughts, and your thoughts begin to rewire your actions. Words also influence your emotional state, and your emotional state is a key driver of your financial behavior. If you speak words of fear and lack, you feel anxious and restricted, and that anxiety leads to cautious, fear-based decisions. If you speak words of abundance and possibility, you feel empowered and open, which makes you more likely to take inspired action. For example, a person who constantly says, "I can't take that risk," will likely miss out on investments, partnerships, or ventures that could increase their wealth. A person who says, "I am open to new opportunities," will see possibilities where others see problems. It's not just about the words you speak out loud. The silent words you repeat in your mind, your self-talk, are equally powerful. If your internal dialogue is full of doubts like, "I'm not good with money," or "I'll never get ahead," you are reinforcing a mental pattern that will manifest outwardly. This is why affirmations are so effective. They give you new, empowering words to replace the old, limiting ones. Over time, these new words create a new identity, and your financial life rises to match it. Another important aspect is that words set the tone for how others perceive and respond to you. If you speak confidently about your financial goals and your belief in abundance, people are more likely to trust you, invest in you, or collaborate with you. If you speak with uncertainty or constant complaint, it can push opportunities away. The words you use create an atmosphere around you, and that atmosphere either attracts or repels prosperity. Your words also serve as declarations to the spiritual laws in operation. When you say, I am prosperous, you are claiming a truth that may not yet be visible, but by speaking it, you help bring it into form. This is the essence of speaking things into existence. The more you affirm abundance, the more your mind looks for evidence to support that statement, and the more the universe aligns with that energy. On the other hand, if you keep declaring lack, your mind will focus on confirming that lack, and you will continually notice situations that reinforce it. It is essential to monitor your language as diligently as you would monitor your spending. Be intentional with the words you use about money, wealth, and abundance. Replace phrases of limitation with phrases of possibility. Instead of saying, I can't afford this, say, how can I make this possible? Instead of saying, money is hard to come by, say, money comes to me with ease. These shifts in language may seem small, but over time, they transform your mindset, your energy, and your financial reality. The moment you understand that your words are commands to both your subconscious and the divine law, you begin to take responsibility for every statement you make about your finances. You start speaking with purpose, knowing that each word is a seed that will grow. Just as a wise farmer chooses the right seeds for the harvest he wants, you choose words that match the financial reality you desire to live in. With consistent, intentional speech, you create an environment where abundance can flourish, opportunities can find you, and prosperity becomes a natural part of your life. God's supply is infinite. Your belief determines your portion, because the abundance of the universe is not measured by human limits, but by divine law. The Creator's resources are endless, and they are not diminished by how much you or anyone else receives. Yet, what each person experiences in terms of wealth, provision, and opportunity is shaped by the beliefs they hold about what is possible. If you believe you are unworthy of great abundance, your life will reflect that belief. If you believe that resources are scarce, you will find yourself living in constant lack. The infinite nature of God's supply is available to all, but it flows into your life in proportion to the size of the vessel you present, and that vessel is shaped by your faith and expectation. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that God's supply is like an ocean, and you can take a teaspoon, a bucket, or a pipeline to draw from it. The size of your container is determined by your belief. A person who expects little from life will only take a small portion, even though more is available. A person who expects abundance will draw generously, and the ocean will never run dry. This is why two people can live in the same economy, under the same circumstances, and yet have completely different financial realities. One is limited by their beliefs, while the other is expanded by their faith. Belief is the gateway that determines how much of God's infinite provision you allow yourself to receive. It is not about convincing God to bless you. It is about aligning yourself to the truth that you are already blessed. If your thoughts and expectations are filled with limitation, you close the channel through which that blessing flows. You may pray for abundance, but if deep down you believe it is unlikely or undeserved, your actions will match that belief, and you will unknowingly block the very thing you desire. Your beliefs about money are often shaped in childhood, through what you heard, saw, and experienced in your family or community. If you grew up hearing phrases like, money doesn't grow on trees, or, why can't afford that, you may have unknowingly absorbed the idea that money is difficult to come by. Those beliefs can remain in your subconscious for years, quietly influencing your choices and shaping your results. To receive more of God's infinite supply, you must examine those inherited beliefs and replace them with truths that align with divine abundance. Statements like, God is my unlimited source, and I receive from the infinite supply with ease, help reprogram your mind to expect more. Belief not only determines the size of your portion, but also the speed at which it arrives. When you believe with certainty that your needs will be met, you live without the constant stress and worry that blocks creative ideas and inspired action. Fear and doubt slow the flow of provision because they cause hesitation, missed opportunities, and self-sabotage. Faith, on the other hand, keeps you open and ready to receive. It allows you to see opportunities where others see obstacles, and to act decisively when the door opens. It's also important to understand that God's supply is not limited to money alone. It includes health, relationships, ideas, creativity, and divine connections, all of which can lead to financial increase. When you believe in the fullness of God's supply, you stop limiting yourself to one avenue of provision. You become open to unexpected channels, knowing that your source is not a job, a client, or an investment, but God Himself. Jobs and investments are merely instruments. The true supply comes from the divine. When you anchor your belief in that truth, you stop panicking when one channel closes, because you know others will open. Some people resist believing in infinite supply because they think it is selfish or unrealistic. But divine abundance is not about taking from others, it is about tapping into a source that is unlimited. There is no shortage in God's kingdom. The same God who feeds the birds and clothes the flowers in beauty without effort has more than enough to meet every human need and desire. Your portion does not reduce someone else's, and theirs does not reduce yours. The only real limitation is the one set by your own belief in what you can have. Expanding your belief begins with stretching your vision. If you can only imagine barely getting by, that is what you will create. If you can imagine living in overflow, having more than enough to meet your needs, bless others, and enjoy life, your mind begins to seek and recognize the opportunities to make that vision real. Visualization, affirmations, and gratitude are powerful tools to help expand your belief. The more you affirm and feel the reality of abundance, the more natural it becomes to expect it, and the more your actions align with receiving it. Belief also requires persistence. There will be times when appearances seem to contradict the idea of infinite supply. Bills may come in faster than income, or opportunities may seem delayed. In those moments, your belief is being tested. If you retreat into fear and scarcity thinking, you shrink your portion. If you hold to the truth that God's supply is infinite and still flowing toward you, you keep the channel open. This is why affirming abundance is not a one-time act but a daily practice. You are constantly reinforcing the truth that there is always more than enough. Ultimately, your financial reality is not set by the economy, your background, or your current circumstances. It is shaped by the beliefs you hold about what is possible for you. If you believe you are connected to an infinite source, your actions will reflect that confidence. You will give more freely, take bolder steps, and welcome new channels of provision without fear. The ocean of God's supply is always full, always available, and always ready to flow into your life in the exact measure that your faith allows. Prosperity thrives when gratitude becomes your daily language, because gratitude shifts your focus from what is missing to what is already present, and that shift opens the door for more blessings to flow into your life. Florence Scovel Shinn often taught that whatever you praise increases, and gratitude is a form of praise. When you express sincere thanks for the resources, opportunities, and provisions you already have, you are sending out a vibration of abundance that attracts more of the same. Gratitude tells the universe, I recognize the good in my life, and I am ready for more. Without gratitude, even large amounts of money can feel insufficient because your attention remains fixed on what is lacking rather than what is available. Gratitude is not just a pleasant feeling, it is a powerful creative force. Your mind cannot hold a state of lack and a state of gratitude at the same time. When you choose gratitude, you train your thoughts to focus on the positive aspects of your financial life, however small they may seem. This mental habit creates a sense of expansion, which in turn draws more abundance. People who live in constant complaint about money tend to repel opportunities and support, while those who are consistently grateful seem to invite favor, assistance, and prosperity. The energy you put out is the energy you receive back, and gratitude radiates a high frequency that naturally aligns with abundance. Gratitude also changes the way you perceive and use money. When you are thankful for every dollar that comes in, you treat it with respect and purpose, which often leads to wiser spending, better investments, and increased flow. You stop taking provision for granted and begin to see it as a blessing to be stewarded well. This mindset of appreciation ensures that you are not wasteful, yet it also prevents the fear-based hoarding that blocks circulation. You begin to recognize that every bit of income, no matter how small, is a sign that God's supply is active in your life, and this recognition builds faith for more. When gratitude becomes your daily language, you start to notice abundance in forms beyond just money. You see it in the relationships that support you, in the ideas that come at the right moment, in the opportunities that appear when you need them most. This expanded awareness broadens your definition of prosperity and helps you realize that wealth is multi-dimensional. Money is only one part of the picture, and by valuing the non-monetary blessings in your life, you create a richer and more balanced experience. That balance keeps you from the desperation and grasping that can sometimes accompany a narrow focus on financial gain. Another reason gratitude fuels prosperity is that it strengthens your faith during times when visible results are small or delayed. When you can give thanks for what you have right now, you affirm your trust that more is on the way. This trust keeps you from falling into discouragement, which can stop progress. Gratitude acts like a magnet, pulling your focus toward possibilities instead of obstacles. Even in seasons of challenge, gratitude reminds you that you are not empty-handed and that every day contains some form of blessing. That constant acknowledgement builds emotional resilience, which is essential for long-term success and abundance. Gratitude also improves your relationships, which in turn can open new channels for prosperity. People are drawn to those who appreciate them and what they bring. If you are grateful toward clients, business partners, friends, or even strangers who assist you, they are more likely to want to work with you, refer you, or help you again. Gratitude fosters goodwill, and goodwill often turns into unexpected opportunities or financial gain. In this way, gratitude is not only a spiritual tool, but also a practical strategy for creating connections that can support your prosperity journey. It is important to make gratitude a habit, not just an occasional reaction to good news. This means deliberately finding things to be thankful for every single day. Even on days that feel difficult, a simple daily practice, like writing down 3 things you are grateful for, can retrain your mind to focus on abundance. Over time, this rewires your subconscious to expect good things, and that expectation shapes your reality. The more you practice gratitude, the more natural it becomes to see blessings everywhere, which keeps you in a continual state of readiness to receive more. Gratitude also transforms the way you speak about your finances. When your language is filled with appreciation instead of complaint, you reinforce a positive energy around money. Phrases like, "I'm thankful for the income I have," or "I'm grateful for the way money finds me," carry a completely different vibration than, "I never have enough," or "money is so hard to get." The words you use influence your emotions, and your emotions influence your actions. A grateful attitude encourages generosity, wise decision-making, and openness to new ideas, all of which contribute to greater prosperity. Even when you are working toward bigger goals, gratitude keeps you from falling into the trap of, "I'll be happy when," thinking. Instead of postponing joy until you reach a certain financial milestone, you choose to enjoy the blessings of the present while moving toward the future. This combination of contentment and ambition is powerful because it prevents desperation and aligns you with the peaceful confidence that attracts more abundance. Gratitude grounds you in the present while keeping you open to expansion. When you truly make gratitude your daily language, you begin to see how often God's provision has already shown up for you. You recognize that even past challenges brought lessons, connections, or shifts that positioned you for greater blessing. This awareness deepens your trust in the process of life and strengthens your belief in the constant availability of supply. It turns your financial journey into a partnership with the divine, where every day is an opportunity to give thanks. Every provision is a reminder of God's care, and every act of gratitude becomes a seed for future increase.